welcome everyone. It's your host Mo from Mo in the Deep End, and we're talking about the club no one wants to join today, Grief Club. And it's going to be a story time. Have your hillbilly Kleenexes ready, but there's still going to be laughs because it's a Mo story. I need like help from patron saint, Helga of Hot Messes. But it occurred to me that no one really talks about this, or at least no one talked about a particular aspect of it that realized, which was delayed grief, which I didn't even know was a thing. I was like, delayed gratification, delay eating brownies until they're at least not, lava level. I mean, delay eating a Hot Pocket as it cools down to the temperature of the sun. Thank you for becoming a new member. And Unhung Hero, thank you for your super chat. Got your ticket written up. Great topic. Lost my dad 3 years ago. Grief and dealing with it has been a pretty significant part of my life since. I feel ya. And everyone's story is different. Everyone's grief's going to look different. Uh, Sometimes it's not going to be the hysterical, like, terms of endearment thing that we see or the steel magnolias. But I'll give you guys kind of the backstory. So we have to rewind the clock back to 2008. The time was strange. Low-rise jeans still existed. The whale tail was out and about everywhere in Indiana. It was a terrifying time, especially when you bent over in the grocery store to pick up a can. Now, lucky for me, I was in maternity pants still because I had a 4-month-old, and even in my 20s, my body did not bounce back. Mainly because first two times, I am totally not going to lie with you guys, I used a pregnancy as an excuse to eat everything. I was like, it's all going to the belly. I didn't realize that my thighs would join in on the, growth along with like the bingo wing and the chin. I was pretty sure it would all just go to like baby factory stuff. But no, no. Now, to set this kind of up, I was living with my mother with my two daughters. My oldest daughter was, I believe, about 15 months old, and my young daughter was about 4 months old. And I was living with my mom because my husband was dealing with a demon of addiction. And it got to the point where it was no longer safe for us to live with him. Just the people that he was hanging out with, his kind of mercurial, like, switches from attitude to behavior, it just wasn't safe. And I left. It was super hard. Like, I am not going to lie to you. Trying to leave with two small children, incredibly hard. Left the house that I did not realize until about 2 months before I left was in foreclosure when a deputy came up and said, "Hey, your husband hasn't paid mortgage in a year." And I was like, "Well, that's good to know. Thank you so much." So I was kind of in the position of being 24 years old, not having a job, living with my mom with two small children, and trying to figure out what my next steps were. So I was filling out applications and going on interviews and trying to figure stuff out. Now, the night before my husband passed, I got a call from him about 10 o'clock. Now, as per usual, and in keeping with current time, I turn into a pumpkin past 8 p.m. Like, I am tired, I don't want to deal with people, and I may or may not be, functional. So I get a call around 10 p.m. and there is loud noises, there are people shouting, and I am like, what the hell is going on? And my husband's like, something's happening, chaos, shenanigans, and all the other. And I finally told him because I was taking the girls down to see him at his parents' house every weekend. I would go on Saturday because, you know, even in his own way, I didn't want the girls to lose their father. I didn't want to deny him the ability to see the girls, but I didn't trust him to have the girls by himself. So I would go there and stay at his parents' house for about half the day take the girls, give him a chance to interact with them. I will remember you guys. So he was trying to leave like girls' numbers out in his room. And he's like, "Yeah, I'm talking to people." And I'm like, "Are you going to tell them you're on probation and you're probably going up for another conviction?" I'm sure the parents will be super proud. I didn't react. I was like, "Well, good for you. I'm sure that'll be an interesting way to sell this." But he was like, "You're not mad that I'm seeing other people?" I was like, "No, I'm not. I'm sorry. You broke something. You stepped out. You stepped out repeatedly. And you are not kind or safe for our children to be here. So you go on, you find your happiness, but I have two girls that I love more." But basically, at the end of that phone call, I was exhausted and I told him, I was like, "Look, if you can't grow up and be a good dad, then I can't bring the girls around you. So you need to grow up." And I kind of hung up the phone. And then, of course, these were the old Nokia phones, like 900 pounds. And I must have misplaced it because I was at my mom's house and I was trying to tidy up the room with like two pack and plays. And my mom was great. She gave me a place to come back to and that kind of thing. So I was trying to get things done and my phone kept ringing and I couldn't find the mother. Okay, I could not find it. I'm over here looking like trying to crawl under the bed. Finally, I find it. And it's my brother-in-law and he says, "You need to get down here quick. They've taken your husband to the hospital." Uh, so I get youngest daughter because I was still nursing, and I remember this so distinctly. I put her in her little, she had a duck kind of velour out, yes, baby velour. But she had this little duck outfit that my sister, because I have a sister, my mom was pregnant when I was a senior in high school. So I had about a 5-year-old sister at that time, but my mom had saved this outfit. So she was looking fly in her ducky suit. She really was. And as I'm driving, I'm talking to my friend, and in true Mo fashion, I am like, "So I have two choices. I can either go full terms of endearment. Why hasn't my husband got medication? Or I could go Steel Magnolias. We're doing his Jane Fonda." Basically, I babbled the entire time there because I did not want to be forced to deal with the fact that I might have to, as his wife, even though we were separated, be the one that pulled the plug. And I didn't want that. I was fervently praying while babbling that I would not have to be the one to make that choice because I didn't know what I was going to do at that point. No idea. And I distinctly remember driving into the parking lot of the same hospital where I had just had my baby. And I remember parking the car and I had the car seat in my hand and I was, getting ready to walk into the emergency room area when his dad came up to me and said he didn't make it. And I don't know that I can explain to you what I felt like other than I was standing there. I know I was standing there, but I don't remember how I was standing there, if that makes sense. It was like I was watching from behind me and I could see me holding my daughter and I knew I couldn't drop her because, she's a baby and you can't drop her, that kind of thing. And so I just stood there holding her and then I know I walked into the hospital. Now how I got there, I don't know. And I got into the lobby and there's a reason, you guys, that I went off camera when the Lake and Riley mom found out that her daughter had passed. I was there and I watched his mom make that sound. And I was just I couldn't feel anything. Couldn't feel anything. Like I couldn't cry. I couldn't do anything. I was just sitting there and I know I sat there. I know I was in there and I took care of my little daughter and I did stuff and I took my daughter out of the car seat and let her grandma hold her, but and then his aunt came in and I remember her making that sound too. But the only thing other than that that I remember, the two women that loved him very much making that sound will stick with you. That is a sound of a soul being ripped apart. And God, I never wanted to hear that sound again. And that is absolutely to take nothing away from Lake and Riley or her mom having the chance to make that sound. It's just something that maybe it helped, you know, kind of loosen some things up. I don't know. But I just remember that that is a sound that will always take me back to those moments. So there's a little small room where you can go say goodbye. And I remember being so goddamn angry at this son of a bitch for choosing drugs instead of his children that I was afraid I was going to punch the shit out of him. No joke, you guys. The only thing other than numb I could feel was just deep, unrelenting rage, which is not very good. But that's what I could feel at that moment. But I went back there and I kind of, put that down and I held his hand. But I didn't say goodbye because I wanted to punch him. And God, if I could go back and tell him goodbye, I would. But it was okay. I felt like I had grieved him earlier because the boy that I loved, the man that I loved, okay, the man child that I loved, with the fervency of a 21-year-old who found the first man that made her feel special and loved and seen. And yes, he was immature and he had some demons, but he was my, cheese to my crackers. We both kind of grew up and we were both there. We made two beautiful daughters. But my allegiance and my ability to deal with his man childness, his vices, his weaknesses changed the minute they laid that first baby on my chest. Then my allegiance was to her. Then my ability to deal with some of the more unfaithful and bad parts of his personality decreased. And even more so when my second daughter happened or came. And the sad part is I have pictures of both of their births, and you can tell by my second daughter, something is really, really wrong. He looks gaunt, skeletal. And, when you love someone with addiction, it is very heady to think that you're going to be the person that's going to bring them out of this, that you're going to be the reason that they change. And if there's anything I could tell you guys, it's that unless someone with addictions wants to change, you can't be the reason because it's not enough. They have to want to change for themselves. And that's a hard lesson to learn when you love someone with addictions. And it's a slow, heartbreaking thing. And hope can be fatal in that thing because you always have that little drop of hope in your heart that things can change. And every time they relapse or every time they go back to, doing whatever they were doing for 4 hours while you're taking care of two children or bringing strange people into the house when you don't know them, that hope dies a little, but is always still there. And it is like an open wound that just never heals because you want it so bad. But then on the other side, if they pass away, that hope is flippin' gone. And you can never get that chance. And that's why Jorge hurt so much, because I know exactly what that family is feeling. Yes, he was flawed. Yes, he was, possibly not the greatest human ever, but they lost that hope. And while that hope is a burden and a pain and a wound that won't heal, the grief is a hole that doesn't go away. So I'd rather sometimes live with a wound that wouldn't heal than an entire hole in my heart. So then I had to drive home from all this. And honestly, I don't know how I got home. But I remember, and this is one of the most heartbreakingly sweet things that anyone has ever done for me. And it came from an 8-year old. So I got home, and my little brother, again, I was a freshman when my mom was also pregnant. So I had an 8-year old little brother and a 5-year old little sister. And my mom rearranged the entire house so that she could give us, my girls and I, a space. So I got home still kind of just like, what the hell does this mean? Does this mean I'm a widow because we were kind of in the middle of separation? Also, I thought we rounded up all the widows and like put them in Harlequin and like 80s cry movies. I was like, I'm 24 and I'm a widow. What the hell does that mean? like what does any of this mean? What am I going to do about this? And I kept thinking, gosh, when am I going to start crying? When is this going to hit me? I guess not now, and I'm kind of okay with it. But as I get in the house and, get her settled in and, hug my other daughter, my little brother comes up to me and he says my real name. And he's like, I have decided that since the girls don't have a dad right now, I am going to be their dad. And that was the sweetest thing, but my aleck remark said, "Sweetheart, that is beautiful, but we are not close enough to Kentucky for you to be an uncle dad." But and I finally got to tell him how much that touched my heart. Uh, about last year, he just turned 21. I figured it would have a little more impact when he was older to tell him how much that really, just made my heart, beautiful. It was just, it really was one of the sweetest things that anyone told me. So I kind of realized that there are a list of things that I have to do. I had no idea. The hospital was going to hold my husband for 3 days. And I was like, okay, why? And she said they have. So I remember asking the nurse why, because there was a lovely nurse, and she said, we're going to hold him for 3 days. And I remember going home to my mom and like, do they think he's a vampire? Why are they holding him? I'm pretty sure dead is dead. I mean, I have no idea. Like, and my mom's like, they need to do some tests in toxicology and that stuff. I was like, okay, I'm just making sure they didn't think like, oops, sorry, no, Uno reverse, he's alive. Because that's where my brain went to. Now, the very next day, and this is funny. Okay. Well, it was the first time I had laughed since I found out my husband died. I think I had gone down to talk to the funeral home, and since, like Sarah, I was indigent, he kind of had explained that if I went to the county, there's a county office that sometimes will help with funeral expenses if you are in need. So I had just gotten done talking to that gentleman. He wrote a check to help us with cremation, and I ordered the girls a locket and myself a necklace with some of his ashes, but let his parents have the ashes. So I had come back from that, and I remember, kind of unwrapping the girls and doing that. And there are two messages blinking on the answering machine. So I go over, play the first one, goes through the message. Mo? Mo, are you there? Marjorie, I don't believe they're there. I think that's the answering machine. No, Donald. Donald, I heard someone breathing. Mo! Mo, are you there? That is the entire first message. Now, that would be my grandmother calling and trying to talk to the answering machine. So the next message comes on, goes through the entire message thing. Mo, I just want to tell you I'm so sorry, but because you didn't get divorced, you can still get communion. Now, my grandmother was Shiite Catholic, okay? And I couldn't get communion mostly because I hadn't finished catechism class either, but my grandmother was supremely okay that I didn't get divorced. And I remember laughing until I was crying at that point. And I should have saved it. And before you think badly about my grandma, it was very important to my grandmother to, have her children follow in her faith journey and her grandchildren. And I'm sure she thought I was worried about communion as well. I was not. But but that had to be the first time I belly laughed since then. But the next thing I remember was driving back to Columbus and going there to pick up the urn. And I remember, in true Mo fashion, we do not confess in confessionals. We confess to poor retail workers who cannot leave. I apologize to all retail workers I have scarred with my emotional diarrhea in the last 16 years. But I was in a gas station and y'all, I don't remember why I bought five of these daggone newspapers, but five seemed like the number I should buy. And the guy was like, gosh, are you looking for lotto or just getting a lot of coupons? And me, now, some people might deliver this with a finesse, but Mo did not. Mo was like, no, my husband died. His obituary's in this. I was wanting to get a couple to save. See, some people would soften it up. I was just like, nope, got a dead husband. Just this, and the poor guy knows nothing to say. And I'm like, it's okay. Look, I don't even know how I feel about this. So no words needed. I totally get you. Just, can I have my five newspapers, please? And a Polar Pop. So leave there. And by this time, my grief had formed into a frozen lake. Kind of, like I could see shapes under it. It's kind of like that semi-frozen where you can see the fish kind of moving in there. You probably shouldn't walk on it. And I could sort of get hints of feelings, but not much. It was pretty frozen. The lake was pretty frozen. And for a long time, I didn't realize that was because I could not deal with anything else. I thought that there was something very, very wrong with me because his mom was crying, his dad was crying, and I couldn't cry. But there was one moment that I did cry. I took my girls to the house for the kind of funeral aftermath. And my daughter, in this beautiful little dress, this little white dress, walked up the steps to her dad's room. And she said, "Where, Daddy?" And what are you supposed to say to a 15-month-old? I have no idea. I had no idea. I was 24 years old. 24. And I kind of fast forwarded. 3 weeks later, I got a job. I got everything set up for Social Security stuff. And about 4 weeks after that, uh, we got our own place. And, we were kind of the Three Musketeers, hanging out, doing stuff, and, just figuring out life together. We were the Three Musketeers. And it wasn't till, and again, the lake stayed pretty much frozen. I mean, I'd have little cracks where I would feel stuff. There was a Pink Floyd shirt of his that I would sleep in, but I still felt mostly anger and frozen lake most of the time. But that lake kind of melted. Again, in true Mo fashion, in Walmart, as per usual. Why I can't have emotional outburst anywhere at home, but no, in the Walmart. It was about a year later, and I was getting stuff ready for my youngest daughter's first birthday. And the cashier, I don't know what about this set me off, but the cashier was putting the wrapping paper in the bag. And then she's like, "Oh, are you celebrating a birthday?" And I'm like, "It's my daughter's first birthday. Everyone's gonna be there." And I start hysterically crying in the Walmart. Like, and I don't cry beautifully like the single tear like Millie Bobby Brown. No, I get the giraffe red spots. I get the, snot nose. So I sound like, so it is like never, never a good look. I always end up looking like I've been like hit with poison ivy and leprosy. And yeah, I it was realizing his absence, and I went home and curled up on a ball in a ball because my girls were still at s- at their daycare center, and I just cried curled up in a ball the rest of that day. But then again, the lake just kind of froze over because I was busy. I had so much to do. I was working nearly 12-hour shifts at the physical therapy pool, keeping the two girls going and everything like that. And for the most part, my grief kind of stayed like that for many years. I mean, I was busy. So I would have moments where it would warm up just a little bit and some grief would pass through, but it didn't really hit. And I've come to realize it was my brain protecting me because for years I forgot I was 24. And I'll tell you guys when I remembered I was 24. So time passes, and things go around. And it came to the point where my oldest daughter was 16 and she had to get her driver's license. Unfortunately, her birth certificate had a tear in it. And being the cheapskate I am, I was not going to pay $80 to get a copy when I could drive my happy behind down to Columbus. Now, I will tell you guys that I still do not actively go to Columbus. There are too many triggers in that small town. There's a lot of stuff that I don't want to deal with. So they wouldn't take Scotch tape. They were like, if there are any tears in it. So went down there with the stupid. So this is after I had already hurt my leg. So I am in a stupid damn boot because, of course, uh, and, you know, walked into the vital records office and I was suddenly back there getting, okay, in the rule of fives, I also got five death certificates for my husband because, in case I lost one. I don't know why I got five again. Apparently, it is just the rule of fives for Mo. And I am in there, and this very sweet man with, well, better birthing hips than me. And of course, I would notice this fact because I am trying desperately to forget that this is the room where I got the death certificates for my husband. Uh, and again, in in true Mo fashion, he's like, "Hey, how can I help you?" And I was like, "You can help me by getting me the hell out of here." And he's like, and I was like, no offense to you. You are lovely. You are very sweet. But I was here 16 years ago to get death certificates for my husband. This is not a happy place for me. So if you could please take my money, print the damn things, and let me get the hell out of here, that would be awesome. And he did, and we did. So he, you know, as per usual, just kind of telling people stuff and to treat myself because I had to be back down there and I just never want to be back in that room ever again if I could help it. There is a little outlet mall outside of Columbus, and I went to the Crocs store. And I remember asking the guy something about Crocs, and he said, "Hey, we have a sale today. You can get two pairs." And I was like, "I'm gonna need this. I had to go get something where my husband died, and it's just been a shitty day." And he's like, I have no idea what to say." And again, I said, "I understand that's the non sequitur from hell. You don't have to worry about it. I totally get it. You are only paid minimum wage, a little bit above. You don't have to deal with my verbal diarrhea, but thank you for being a kind person." And of course, I say all of this. But I was like, "Thank you for being kind to me. I am very sorry to unload this on you. I want to say that I don't do this often, but I do. So I am sorry. It's a personal thing. Apparently, I should pay for a therapist. Although, unless the therapist is directly in a Walmart, I don't know that I'll open up. So I don't know how that's going to work." And I went to this nerdy shop, and the guy actually let me see some Sailor Moon memorabilia. I wasn't going to buy it. I'm not going to buy $80 worth of Sailor Moon stuff. I'd already just bought Crocs. Mr. Mo would not like the, credit card thing. But he was really sweet and he let me see them and he said, "I hope that cheered up your day." And it really did. And grief's kind of like that, but you also find people don't know what to say because what everyone wants to say is is that, this sucks balls and I hate that it's happening and I don't want it to happen to me. That's what everyone wants to say, but we have to church it up to be like, "I'm sorry for your loss." And it's like, look, no one knows what the hell to say, and the words sometimes don't help. Or they're just that perfunctory thing that you say and you're not processing. I mean, I don't remember half the things people told me at that time, but no one knows what to say, and I usually just say that grief sucks balls because that's just how I roll. That being said, and it's hard. I mean, I feel bad for the people on the other end of this. Oh yeah, time heals all wounds. That is a thank you so much, Hallmark. So it is one of those things where I always tell people like no one knows what to say. And what we want to say is, you know, why does this happen? Why can't we just not? You know, or it'll get easier or life goes on or things like that. Yes and no. Even when my grief was a frozen lake and deeply frozen, it was still there. It was still there every time I saw my daughters achieve something new. It was there every time, they were going through a struggle. And God, I wish, I have Mr. Mo, and I do, but I wish sometimes that he were here to talk to me, to say what maybe he struggled with as a teen, because I don't remember if we had those talks. But the kind of shitty thing, at least for me, and this is my lake thing, if I had a time machine, I'd go back and replace the gas station dude and cheer you up. I'd mention David Bowie's codpiece. Yeah, it was, but I have to go back to the Crocs thing. So it wasn't until I was sitting in the parking lot of the outlet mall when I realized, and this was 2 years ago, so I was 24. And I had forgotten that I was 24 when this happened. And I don't know about anyone else. Maybe you guys were really, really set up and figured all your life out at 24. But at 24, my life had just completely shifted off its axis, and people were still going to Walmart. That is the most shitty thing that happens for grief. Your world has just imploded, has just, completely been robbed of oxygen and gravity. And people are still doing dumbass things like going out for toilet paper or smiling or just going to McDonald's. The world doesn't stop and acknowledge your pain. In fact, you get to see people smiling and holding hands and falling in love and being in love all around you because the world doesn't stop. And I remember feeling that way for so long. It was like I was watching the world and I was kind of part of it, but it was like watching it like Jane Goodall in the mist and watching all of the, I think it's chimpanzee or gorillas. I can't remember what she watched, but that's kind of how I felt in that moment. Was like, how does the world keep moving? Why are you guys going out and doing stuff? Don't you realize my world is done? Don't you will realize, that I've lost someone and I have no idea how I'm supposed to be feeling about it. I'm not crying. I have this big kind of frozen iceberg on my heart. But other than that, it's everyone's still doing stuff. And it was so confusing. And, that was kind of upsetting. But then every child, now, I had been waiting for this time since youngest Farrell was born. But then I feel like Sophia from the Golden Girls. Picture it, pussycat. After 16 years of breeding, I was going to have the entire house to myself for 8 hours. It was amazing. And that was about 2 years ago. And suddenly, out of nowhere, my leg starts to thaw a little bit. I now had some quiet time. And grief, being a sneaky, rotten asshole who just waits in his time, decided to say, "Hello, remember those deferred payments? I'm kind of like a school loan. You still carry me around. Would you like to start making some payments on your layaway grief plan?" And I was like, "No, I'm pretty sure I already dealt with this. It's been nearly 15 years. I'm going to go ahead and push defer on that." So the lake kind of stayed. It was a bit starting to melt, but it had a layer on it. It had a protective layer of ice, and I was doing okay, at least I thought. But then I made the fatal mistake. The act of hubris so great last year on New Year's Eve that it could not be undone. No, I decided to tempt the Lord because I said, "Lord, this year my goal is personal growth." Now, I should have explained to the good dear Lord at the time that personal growth meant like a boob job and getting an ab or two. Like personal growth meant like growing my hair or maybe learning how to speak French or something. Now, in some twist of fate like the daggone, monkey paw or the gift of the magi, he decided, hey, I'm going to stop this, deferred, delayed, payment plan on this grief, and I'm gonna unthaw this lake for you. And I was like, uh, no, 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 no. Look at subsection 12, letterhead B, appendix 4. I meant abs, not grief. No, not grief. Abs. Now, I want to be able to get there eating Little Debbie, so I'm not sure exactly how this is going to work, but no grief. Don't want to do that. Kind of hard pass on this general option. So, all this year, My grief lake, my iceberg has been melting. And maybe it was the hearing Laken Riley's mom, make that sound or everything. But the last couple days, I could gladly go back to laying on the floor crying. But I will tell you something good. If your grief is an iceberg, if you don't feel something, if it's a frozen lake, what I can tell you now that I'm feeling these feelings, now that I'm allowing myself to have these and honoring my grief or whatever the health therapy thing, honestly, I feel like I'm just going through a cry fest like I watched 20 damn Lifetime movies. I don't know. But I'm remembering happy things. And maybe that's the price we pay to feel the happy things. We have to hurt, but I can remember happy things now and I can share them with my girls and I can talk about them now. But the weirdest thing was having to sit Mr. Mo down because do you want to know how weird as hell it is to grieve a man who wasn't a greatest husband, who was kind of a jerk face, who cheated on you and was not very nice to you, while you have a good husband and a whole family and so many things to be grateful for, but you still have to grieve this incredible jerk face who gave you two kids. And it's like, damn it, I don't want to do this. I don't want to talk about this, but I also don't want anyone else to feel like a terrible human for 16 years because their lake was frozen. Because sometimes grief isn't a performative out loud screaming. Sometimes grief is making terrible, terrible, inappropriate jokes and glossing over them and being too busy. And if I can stop one person from hating themselves because they didn't feel or didn't think that what they were feeling was right. Grief is so absolutely individual. And it's it's interesting because now I can talk to him. And I've tried talking to him before, but it used to just be like, F you, I don't like you, you left your daughters, things like that. Seriously, Joe Biden, stop sniffing my hair. No offense to anyone who's on, riding with Biden team, but I do call him Joe Biden of the hair sniffery. So, what I will tell you that helped me with grief is people that just sat there and let me say whatever I wanted to say. And, just didn't say much, didn't judge, just kind of laughed at my terrible, terrible, terrible jokes, like darker than dark jokes. Uh, but just sat there and listened and were there. Sometimes the greatest thing you can do for a friend who's grieving is say, hey, I know you're going through hell right now. Need another person to sit by your side and hold your hand? Because you're not going to fix it. But knowing that someone is holding your hand, well, it feels like there's a giant hole in your heart. And that's what I'm dealing with right now. And I sure as hell hope that, soon as this isn't as fresh right now, and my lake just thawed kind of overnight, that my life has grown so much that the hole it'll still be there. That lake is going to be there. That lake is always going to be there. And I hope that in heaven or whatever you believe, I am not here to proselytize. Good Lord knows I just made fun of my Shiite Catholic grandma, okay? I'm just aiming for purgatory. But I do hope that when I meet him again, and my version of heaven is that, you are the person that you were always meant to be without the crap, all the crap that happened. So I'll get to meet him the way he was supposed to be. And it sucks that, on my daughter's graduation this year, he's not going to be able to see it. And I've almost forgiven him for the stuff that he did to me, but I don't know that I'll ever forgive him for leaving those two girls. Nope. I don't know if I have that in my heart yet. And it might take another 16 years, and I can remember good stuff, and I can remember how absolutely deeply, madly in love I was with him, and I can remember all of this. But once they laid those two girls on my chest, I would die for them, and I would never leave them, and I would never cause them pain. At least I try not to. Look, I was still a hot mess express. I'm still a hot mess express. And look, I am the my patron saint Eustace of grudgery. I'm working on it. I'm trying. But I will say the one rule I always had was that I didn't let anyone talk badly about their dad in front of them. And boy, did my mama want to. And I totally got it. Look, she was in full honey badger. She did not want to see her daughter in pain. She wanted to go, right on everything that was causing her daughter to hurt. So I totally get it. But I told her, I was like, look, that's their dad, and every kid deserves to have a dad. And, they can learn the truth later. And will I tell them every gritty detail of my marriage? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. Because that's my stuff to carry. And they don't need to carry that. I'll give them, advice. I'll remind them that because their dad struggled with addiction, they need to be very careful because I know it can be genetic. But I won't go into all that with them. And my mom wonders why. And I get it. She doesn't like him. I totally do. But they don't need to know. So, what I also wanted to tell you guys is that this sneaky, slimy son of a bitch grief can have, even if your lake is fine and you're dealing with your lake or your iceberg, sometimes there can be tsunamis. Sometimes a smell or just something that you couldn't even quite figure out will put you right back into that space, and it is a kick in the very center of your left tit, which is unfair because you should at least be given a warning, a little notification pops up on your iPhone just to let you know a song about something is going to remind you of this, and you're going to be useless for the rest of the day. Good luck and Godspeed. May the odds be ever in your favor. I know. Could we get tsunami warning, waves? Could we do this? I mean, I'm just saying. Could we get some, my dad was a jerk face too. I found out a lot later. My mom kept a lot from me, but I was smart and could see it anyway. She never talked bad about him in front of me, even though he was a jerk face. So that's kind of my story with delayed grief. I've spent the last 2 days kind of just watching Golden Girls. And can I tell you that Golden Girls handled this beautifully. For an 80s show, they handled this beautifully. And while my lake is probably always going to be here, I can remember happy times. And that's something I couldn't for a long time. And that's a blessing. And I learned about delayed grief, which is actually a thing, so I'm freaking not crazy because I blame hormones on a lot. And I get to see this is the thing that kills me the most. This is why I have such a hard time forgiving him for the girls. I have been part of their early chapters in their story. I've helped them write them. And now I get to see the chapters that they're writing themselves and the beautiful women that they're becoming and the things that they will do and go and see. And I worry that there's always going to be a part of them that is missing their dad. And I can't explain why. I can't. I can't because I would never choose anything over my kids. I know, and I'm getting there, but you don't, okay, you guys have to understand that I am pretty sure, self-diagnosed, that I have a high percentage of Scottish and Irish in me, and they haven't even forgiven the English, so I am working on it in Irish Scottish time. But I want to tell you guys, if you're struggling with this, if you are worried that your grief doesn't look the way, you know, it does on TV, because I was definitely, trying to get there. I couldn't understand what was wrong with me for many years because I would feel the iceberg. I would feel, all of that. Someone give me what was it? Crap sewer? Dear God. No, and it has to be real. And at least I'm talking to him now. And I am definitely hoping that one day I get there. But that being said, I also told my girls because they would come home uh from visits with their grandma, their dad's mom, and they're like, I don't know what I feel about dad. And I said, that's okay. That's the one thing I did tell my girls. Whatever you feel or don't feel is perfectly fine. And, that's totally fine. If you don't feel very much of anything, you are 4 months old, sweetie. You don't have to feel the same kind of pain that someone else would. And they have, Mr. Mo in their life who stepped in and stepped up. So I'm saying this to you in stream. If your grief doesn't look like what other people says it should, if you feel everything or nothing, or you feel everything one day and nothing the next, it's fine. It's grief. It just sucks. Don't feel bad about it. What you're feeling is normal. If you feel like your feelings are in a blender and you're happy, mad, sad, glad, destroyed, and you can't figure out or make sense of it, it's okay. It is okay. Grief is personal, and it's not measured in how many outbursts you have or how many Kleenex boxes you destroy, or, if you can function or not function. or you have to pick yourself up, find a house for two girls and move on with your life quickly because you have two girls to take care of. It doesn't matter. We are all just trying to human and people and get through this life relatively unscathed. So, if you're judging someone for maybe not acting the way they should, or you're judging yourself, don't. For God's sakes, don't live 16 years with guilt and, self loathing because you cannot understand why you feel the way you do or don't. This is Mama Mo saying, whatever you feel is fine. And I love you just the way you are. I'm going to sign off. I'm going to go watch some Golden Girls. Thank you all so much for your support. Now I want pizza, damn it. Be kind to yourself. Really, guys. Be kind. This world is hard enough without our own minds beating us up. I ended up on my ex bedroom floor, sobbing with his new wife consoling me. Weirdest day ever. Yeah, there is no rhyme or reason to grief. Other than it just sucks all the donkey balls. Although Hallmark will never let me put a card out there with it. Like true Hallmark. Like, great that you're getting married. I don't see it lasting. She can't cook. But there you are, guys. Thank you so much. This isn't easy for me to talk about because mostly I avoid feeling feelings other than absurdity and laughter. But if my stream can help one person, then it's kind of like my CRPS streams. I don't generally like to talk about myself except, like in personal stories or just little tidbits that are funny. But that's it. I don't want anyone else to feel the way I did for many, many years. So I'm going to sign off because I forgot waterproof mascara. I mean, how very not dynasty of me. But I am going to get off of here and check the laundry. Now, I know that you are all peanut butter and jealous, but I have plenty of laundry to go around. You get a basket, and you get a basket, and you get to fold pants. Yes, I cannot end on a sad note. Have a lovely day, you guys. I will be doing Legal Shenanigans Theater, taught on a spot tomorrow at 3. And then next week will be a little bit differenty. I will be on location 2 days next week, getting some of my infusions and kind of reporting live from my hotel room. Maybe there'll be a hot tub. I can start selling my bath water. Let me see who is going. I am terrible. I always forget to redirect you guys. I am a terrible creator. It is always something I forget. Okay. I am going to send you to Miss Ada K. You guys remember, it is the 6th. Okay, she is live. Give Miss Ada a big amount of support. I am probably going to click off of here and Golden Girls, but she has also lost her sister to the big C, and I know that her grief, and she was incredibly brave. She actually inspired me to do this stream. Her actually crying on stream was something that I found incredibly brave, and I was just very touched that she could show all of her emotions and do that and let her grief out and let people see it and be vulnerable like that. So go over to Ada, tell her I sent you, and have a lovely day, you guys. Bye.